Good afternoon, everyone. Here's an update for 720 to follow up from my one this morning. Really, in a surprise to no one, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that the geographical objectives of the special military operation, quote unquote, in the Ukraine is no longer limited to eastern Donbass region, but will also include a number of other territories. He said this to RIA Novosti, the state news agency in Russia, saying that they're now focused on regions in Kherson, Zaporizhia, as well as other parts of southern Ukraine, probably to include Odessa, because let's be honest, they want to create a land bridge to Moldova and Transnistria and cut off the Black Sea to Ukraine. He also said there was a number of other territories, quote unquote, that they're looking at as well. He said that the objectives will expand further if Kyiv's western supplies to Ukraine continue, specifically the long-range weapons. Well, they're going to continue, so I guess you're going to continue to try to expand. If you remember, in February 24th, President Putin's reasons for invading were to demilitarize and denazify, as well as support the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, not so much to take the country writ large. Now it seems to no one's surprise yet again that he is wanting to move further into Ukraine and take likely the entire country. Because of this, Russia's foreign minister said that it makes no sense to resume peace talks with Kyiv at the moment as Moscow presses ahead with an offensive operation. Russia's Wagner Group, who is their private corporation mercenary group that supports Russia's more nefarious efforts to keep their Kremlin's hands off of things in other countries, is now lowering its recruiting standards as it incurred heavy casualties. They're now hiring convicts and blacklisted individuals, which is potentially impacting its effectiveness. Now, traditionally, Wagner Group had standards, apparently, where they wouldn't allow murderers and rapists to join. Well, now they are. So I guess they can just be like the rest of the Russian soldiers who are murderers and rapists, and it's par for the course for them. Putin said that Russia is facing colossal challenges in the high-tech sector, which is an unusually frank admission of the difficulties the Kremlin is experiencing as sanctions begin to bite. A lot of this tech sector equipment, specifically things in precision engineering, as well as any kind of chipset that is bigger than what goes into toys, is something that Russia cannot manufacture. They just don't have the intelligence to do so. These are things that are manufactured in Germany, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and the United States. So with those sanctions, they're not able to get those access to those things other than on the black market. And often the black market is infiltrated by Western nations trying to get them shitty equipment and causing them to have problems. So Putin admitting that they are having problems in this area. Russia is ready to allow the export of grain if all sanctions are removed on the export of Russian grain, according to President Putin. However, the reality is currently there are no sanctions on Russian food exports other than what they steal from Ukraine. So that's what they mean. They want to be able to steal Ukrainian grain and then ship it under a Russian flag. And that's what Putin wants. He's just saying it's Russian grain. 2 days ago, a $36 million Russian Su-34 bomber was shot down by Russian owned forces over Ukraine's eastern Luhansk region. And once again, I've said this before, the Russians struggle with combined arms actions. Combined arms is when you have ground, air, communications, intelligence, all integrated together, sometimes the sea operations, and they're just not good at it. They can't integrate, and this is what happens when you don't. You shoot down your own aircraft. The first Polish or U.S. Abrams tanks are arriving in Poland, and Poland will only have to pay a very symbolic price for the 116 U.S. Abrams tanks to replace the 240 T-72s that Poland has sent to Ukraine. By 2026, Poland is expected to have the M1A2 Set B3 version of the Abrams tanks. Actually, this is a tank that a lot of the U.S. Army currently uses, but is going to the Set B4, which is a much more advanced tank. So obviously, Poland is going to be very formidable in its tank force here in the next few years. The U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee has approved of Sweden and Finland joining NATO. It should go to a full Senate vote soon, with the expectation that it will easily pass and then Biden will sign it. However, Turkish President Erdogan has repeated the threat to block Finland and Sweden's NATO membership bids if the two don't uphold the promises it made to Ankara, specifically to those groups that Turkey believes are terrorist groups that are operating in Finland and Sweden. It's not that they're operating in them. It's just there's a belief that Sweden is sheltering them, and it's a bit more complicated than that. I did a video of that before, but that's kind of the reason right now. The Czech government is moving forward on a deal to buy the new F-35 fighter jet from the U.S. Earlier reports said that Prague could buy up to 24 planes, and that cost $85 million. And I've said this 100 times, the benefactor of this war is going to be the U.S. Everyone wants their equipment. The military-industrial complex in the U.S. is the best in the world, and everyone wants a piece of it now. So the U.S. is going to make a lot of money on Russia's bumblefuckery in Ukraine. Russia's McDonald's replacement, called Tasty Period, which in and of itself is a horrible fucking name, is now getting complaints of moldy food and bugs in its fries. And as a response, Tasty Period has banned the use of smartphones in their stores. And I don't know if there's a better representative microcosm of the country of Russia writ large than Tasty Period. Instead of addressing the mold in the food and the bugs and the fries, they're just going to ban the use of smartphones. Just like Russia. You're not addressing the bugs and the mold in your system. You're just going to ban the use of the ability to report on it. Tasty Period is a microcosm of Russia. Moving on, Russia's ambassador to North Korea has suggested that the country's construction workers can be sent to occupied Donbass to rebuild the country. It's almost like he was calling them slaves if you read the actual comment, but he said they're very cheap and hardworking and will work in difficult standards. So that's kind of interesting. But this comes after a deal with Iran for Russia to receive drones to assist Russia. First of all, it's like the Legion of Doom here between Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. And second of all, how bad is the Russian military that it has to get drones and drone tech from Iran to support its war effort? According to the Ukrainians, all American HIMARS are intact, which is countering propaganda efforts by the Russian Ministry of Defense to say that those have been destroyed. The U.S. is saying they're all intact as well, and in fact are sending 4 more. The concern coming out of the Multinational Operations Center is getting Ukraine the ammunition that is required instead of just getting the HIMARS. That's something they're working on right now. Now, the House approved a $100 million funding attachment to the $840 billion defense spending package to allow the U.S. to train Ukrainian pilots on U.S. aircraft, specifically the F-15 and the F-16. Now, Zelensky's been asking for F-16s and F-15s for a long time, but the U.S. has pushed back. Now, despite what other more prominent TikTokers are saying, this does not mean the U.S. is giving them F-15s and F-16s in the near term to fight against Russia, at least yet. Although it is assumed that Ukraine will eventually get them. Now, this training program, even if it started today, which it won't because the Senate won't even vote on this till September, will take at least 3 months to train the Ukrainians at a very basic level, let alone the advanced tactics. The U.S. doesn't want to give the Ukrainians expensive fighter jets just to have them get shot down due to novice pilots. In that 3 to 6 months, there could be a lot of changes on the battlefield. This training won't start until early next year and is designed for long-term integration of the Ukrainian Air Force into the West, not for short-term fighting against Russia. So while I very much support the U.S. training Ukraine and getting them these aircraft, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Even if the aircraft itself has not been approved, only the training has, and that training is going to take, at a bare minimum, 3 to 6 months from the beginning, which is expected not to be until December or January. So sometime in the summer of next year, we might be discussing getting them these aircraft. Until then, we have to just train them and then work through the issues they're having currently. So I get it. People are excited, but we need to kind of rein it in, take about 10 to 20% off our excitement here and realize the reality of what they're talking about. And then finally, Russia has fined Google $382 million for not removing content banned in Russia. And I feel like, first of all, that's like, Google's going to go dig in their couch for that fine? They won't pay it. But I feel like as a TikToker and a YouTuber that repeatedly incurs the ire of Russia, I probably should support Google and help them out by giving some money to Russia to help out with these fines. So I have a bit right here in my pocket, if I could just get it. Oh, it's right here. Yeah. There you go, Russia. Rest of you have a good rest of your day.